Hi, I'm Anel. I left a guy not so long ago. Well, it's not that I gave up, but rather, I gave up the idea of dating him. He is famous, smart, rich, and beautiful. No, he is not a singer or an actor. He is worse, the son of the president, but not like everyone else. When I was in high school, I was often approached by guys. To be honest, this is not surprising, because I was popular because of my appearance. Who wouldn't want to date a natural blonde and a great figure? I didn't have any problems with attention at school either. Many boys were willing to give everything for one kiss, but I knew my worth. I didn't find myself in the trash. Anyway, school ended and I broke up with a guy I had at the time. He was good, but I thought I could find someone better. Higher up. Well, as I predicted, I met one in college. His name was Bernard. I didn't know who he was, but I noticed him as soon as I entered the college grounds. This burning brunette, fit, pumped up with a cool car. It should have been mine. There were girls around him, but they weren't my competition. During my studies, I got friends. This was also all temporary, because women's friendship does not happen. The most important and only factor was, for me, that they were ugly. And I looked even more spectacular even without makeup. I was sure that as soon as I performed the magic trick, it would be mine. I chose the right day, place, and time. Bernard was walking to the car after school, and I put on my best pink dress, put on my new shoes, and did a great hairdo. And when I got close to him, I pretended to be dizzy and fainted right on his shoulder. He picked me up like a gentleman, then asked me if I was all right. I, allegedly in a semi-fainting state, asked for water. He picked me up and put me in the car. Then we drove to a nearby market where he bought water for me. I came to myself, took a sip, and thanked him. So we met. Then Bernard asked me where to take me, left me at the house and left. Wow, that was so mean. How could he not look at me? No, this is not the end. The next day, I found him in college and spoke first. Thank you for saving me yesterday. If it wasn't for you, I would have died, I told him. And he said, nothing, and went on. Oh, I was raging. How could he ignore me? How? I'm beautiful. Everyone hunts him. He's a good-looking guy, but that's all we know about him. Girls fall in bundles at his feet, but he doesn't look at anyone, a stranger told me. They're not me, I told her. The hunt has just begun. Now, I had to achieve it in principle. After a while, I came up with a plan. I paid some hermits to attack me in front of him. Pretty boy was supposed to save me. Perfect, and, by the way, very romantic. It did happen. We found out what time Bernard will be coming home after football. He was driving down the street in the evening, and I was walking alone. Here, my registered hooligans attacked me, tried to take away a bag. I screamed and yelled for help, and Bernard stopped, got out of the car, and punched one of them in the jaw, and they all ran away. All I could do was pretend to be a scared, poor girl. Bernard helped me up, put me in the car, and offered to take me to the hospital. I reassured him that everything was fine, but I was just scared. Well, then I hinted that I was also hungry. That evening, Bernard took me to a restaurant for dinner. We spent the entire evening talking about hobbies and interests. He asked me what my family did. I said as is. We had our own business. My father owned a chain of restaurants, and my mother owned a glossy fashion magazine. Bernard said that his father is also a businessman, but he did not specify what kind of business they had. Bernard was a pretty bright, well-read guy. Looking at his pretty face, it seemed to me that his face was very familiar, but I couldn't remember where I had seen him. Suddenly, at dinner, some person came up to our table, a dressed-up girl with a Chanel purse. She shamelessly walked up to Bernard and gave him a slap in the face. I was in shock. How could she? Goat, she shouted, and ran away. It was clear from my face that I wanted to know who she was. This is my ex-girlfriend. We actually broke up a long time ago, but she is still jealous of me, he said. I looked surprised, then smiled a little. Frankly, I thought he was the typical son of rich parents, but to my surprise, he didn't look like my other boyfriends. He was somehow different. What kind of girls do you like? Handsome said that for him, first of all, but it is important that the girl had something to talk about, That she was kind and sincere. These words stunned me even more. But what about Beauty? And he said he didn't care. Can you imagine? It doesn't matter. This is ridiculous. Beauty is important for everyone. He asked me what I liked best, and I told him I loved parties, days at spas, shopping, and cars. He smiled and then said that it was late and it was time to go home. I didn't want the evening to end so quickly, but I did want to go home. When we arrived, he got out of the car and opened the door. I thanked him for dinner and put my lips to his, and he pulled away abruptly. Whoa, Anel, listen. You are a very beautiful and incredibly effective girl. It's nice to talk to you, but I already have a girlfriend, he said. What? You said that bitch was your ex. You lied to me, didn't you? Bernard just laughed and said, no, it's not her, then said goodnight and left. I spent the next month trying to find out who his girlfriend was, but everyone was surprised and said they didn't know. This mystery further fueled my interest. I followed him, went from college to football, from football to friends, from friends to home, and all in vain. She was nowhere to be found. Did he lie to me? I didn't give him a chance. I threw parties at home, declaring him the main guest, tried to run with him in the morning, caused jealousy by kissing his best friend. By the way, I still can't get rid of him. I tried to change my image and dye my hair brunette, invited him to the theater, pretended to be sick again and lay in the hospital. This went on for another 2 months. I hunted him for 6 months. Damn, I've never run after a guy like this before, and he kept friend-zoning me. I broke off my diet from nerves and ate ice cream with chocolate. Well then, one fine morning, he arrived at college in a car with someone. An average-looking girl got out of the car. She was wearing a wide sweatshirt, glasses, jeans, sneakers, almost no makeup, and everything natural. Nose, hair color, lips. What? He took her by the hand? I thought it was his sister. How could he date someone like that? It broke my heart. I'm kidding. No, I didn't love him. It was just supposed to be a game. And it went on too long. A couple of months later, I had another tantrum. As soon as I accepted that he liked nerds, I found out that he was the president's son. Damn it! I could have been first lady, and in my place will be this freak. I shouted after the psycho. Hey, pretty girl, so when are we going on a date? A voice asked. Oh, you again, I said to Bernard's friend. He was my biggest fan. I looked at thousands of pictures of Bernard and his horror story on the internet and sighed. After a while, I realized that maybe he really just doesn't like me. Maybe sometimes beauty isn't the most important thing in people. At least Bernard showed it clearly. It took an effort to let go of the situation with him. There's nothing worse than when I can't get my way. On the other hand, his friend wasn't so bad either.
Hi everyone, I'm Brooke. I'm sure you've fallen in love and gone crazy about it. Love either gives you wings or pulls you down. In my story, I experienced these 2 moments. I remember it was my last year at school. It was supposed to be unforgettable. Everyone was looking forward to graduation. My friends and I had already chosen a couple to go to prom with. No, we didn't ask the girls, we told them. Everyone wanted to hang out with us, which was not surprising, because we were part of the school's football team, where I was the captain. The director of the school loved us in a special way. No, this was not due to the fact that our parents sponsored the school, but probably because it couldn't be any other way. My father owned a chain of car washes in the city, and my mother owned a beauty salon, which was the largest in Florida, and I was still in high school, doing all my best. I had never received my share of female attention. My parents tried to give birth to a handsome boy like me. As I said, I had my own group of friends. We had all been friends since childhood, and our parents since their student days. The boys and I liked to have a good time at parties, so we went to the club and spent the evening. Everything went as usual. We were drinking, Norman was hitting on girls, and we were conquering the dance floor. I think I had too much to drink, so I went outside to get some air. Just a couple of meters away, I saw some bastards teasing a girl. She was crying and calling for help. I never thought of myself as a hero, but I must have been so affected by alcohol that night. In general, there was a fight, and I was beaten. I lost, but I won, and I saved her. She was ordinary, too modest, frightened, and scared. I laid on the ground, unable to move or breathe. My ribs were broken. She sat on the ground and cried over me as if I were dead. "That's it, stop crying, it's all right," I told her. She was still crying, but she managed to say thank you. And that's how we met. Her name is Brittany. It turned out that she had recently moved to our city. She was a little older than me and worked as a music teacher at the local music school. As I said, she was plain to me, but somehow she was still attractive. Britt spent the next week writing to me, asking how I was feeling, and once inviting me to dinner as a gratitude for the rescue. I went to her house on a Friday night. A gorgeous girl in a tight black dress opened the door for me. I didn't recognize her, and she was even more confused. "I'm not used to dressing like this," she said, looking down at the floor. Britt was an orphan. From the family, she had a younger brother. Now he was being raised by an aunt, and she dreamed of taking him to her. But that required money, so she saved it by teaching private music lessons. I won't go into more details, but we spent an interesting evening in her cozy little apartment, so we started dating. I don't know how, but I felt that I was good with her. Under her modest shell, I discovered a surprisingly sensitive, understanding, and kind girl. She always had interesting conversations, read lots of books, and could argue with me for hours. You know, it was pretty good. I felt like I was gradually losing my mind. I started spending less time with my friends, and I spent weekends with Britt. It was as if we replaced everyone else, and we were happy about it. A couple of months passed. As I said, we didn't see each other that often because of her work, and it was driving me crazy. I wanted to see her every day, to protect her, and to be with her. Britt called me one day in tears. One of the thieves stole her car and crashed it. Yes, it was a pile of iron junk. I don't know how the thief survived, but he managed to escape. My girlfriend was terrified. I knew that she had earned that car fairly. Even though Britt made me promise to give her no more than $20 in gifts, I couldn't bear to see her like this, so I gave her my car keys. Of course, she did not want to accept such a gift, but it was necessary to go to the neighboring city to see her brother. She agreed. I was head over heels in love. School parties, drinking parties were no longer interesting. Several more months passed in this way. I planned to propose to her and introduced her to my parents. Dinner was tense, and Britt could feel it. They didn't like her very much. My mother was confused by our age difference. She also told me not to rush, and that I was blinded from love, and this love was not real. I was offended by these words, and I hadn't spoken to her in a week. My father told me to decide for myself. Then my parents went to live with my grandmother abroad, and I invited Britt to stay with me for a couple of days. At dinner, I proposed to her with my grandmother's diamond ring, and she said yes. Overjoyed, I woke up the next day, left my breakfast on the table while she slept, and went to school. At school, as always on Mondays, the local police officer came and conducted preventive conversations with high school students. "We have a gang of professional scammers and thieves operating in our city. They ingratiate themselves with the owners and rob the houses. More than a dozen mansions were ransacked. They are wanted in 5 states. If you see someone similar, let us know." He said that and showed a photo of the wanted. I couldn't believe it. I feel like I've been doused in cold water. "Holy shit," I shouted. The photo was my girlfriend, with those guys who supposedly attacked her that very night. We arrived at my house with the police. I was still in a state of shock. Yes, the house was completely ransacked. No money, no jewelry, no dad's car. She took everything. All that was left was a lipstick kiss on the tablecloth by the breakfast table. Was I in love? Yes. Was I blind with emotion? Yes. I don't even know what the worst part of the story is, my sincere feelings for her, or that my mother was right.